So we've got about 45 minutes. This is around diversity in practice, but what I can't promise you is a silver bullet. So we're not going to give you the answer on how to solve the gender mix on your board or how to create more ethnicity in your organisation. We'd love to. We have an entire team working on that at Boots. What we've really focused on is the elements of diversity that are within the control of our team and particularly within us as leaders. So we're just going to talk to you a bit about the evolution of the journey that we're on, where we're at so far, and hopefully you'll be able to take away some nuggets you can use in your own organisations. We do have to say we have a forward-looking statement of confidentiality, but I'm going to whip straight past it.
I was going to say we have no forward-looking statements in here, so I think we're safe.
Yeah. So this is me. I'm Emma Eatch. I'm a CRM manager in Boots, and what we wanted to do was just take a moment to introduce ourselves, but help you see that even with a mix of two CRM managers here, you have some diversity. So I stopped my education at A-level. So I was supposed to go to do marine biology as a degree, and actually on the day I got my A-level results, I was also offered a role on the shark breeding programme at the London Aquarium, so I went and did that.
Very sensible.
Very sensible, as you do. Then I realised that actually it's very physical work and anything to do with animal husbandry is terribly paid, and that wasn't going to make much of a career. So I took that biology knowledge and went to Boots instead and did a pharmaceutical training programme with them. I've been at Boots for 15 and a half years now, been in insights and data analytics for 6 and been an insight manager for the last 3.5 years. That's me.
And hi, I'm Gillian McNulty. I'm also a CRM manager at Boots. So I'm Gillian McNulty. I wouldn't define myself as white Irish, but what I would say is actually when I used to work at Guardian Unlimited monitoring the talk board, I worked with a lady called Mabel, who was probably about 2 years older than me. And yet the people on the talk board used to love to talk about Gillian and Mabel sitting doing their knitting, looking at the talk board. So I'd like to think, yes, I'm a little bit older than, the average talk board user, but really not that old. But there you go. That's the beauty of a name, isn't it, really? So I've been at Boots now for 4.5 years. Before that, I worked in law enforcement as an intelligence analyst. And I guess, what I learnt there is it's quite hard to define a career within the police as a member of police staff. Possibly getting a little bit better now. But yeah, basically, if you want to forge your own career in analytics, you do need to kind of think outside the box and look elsewhere. So I feel like I'm quite fortunate to land where I have landed. Now, my data skills I learnt while I was at Boots. I'm laughing about the fact that today people are going about, SPSS, that old thing we used to use. We do sometimes still use SPSS modeler. But there are definitely people in the team using R and Python and all that sort of stuff as well. So, we are somehow getting with the times, I guess.
PR do make us put these slides in, but we're going to talk to you a little bit about Boots and the fact that we are no longer just Boots, we are now the Walgreens Boots Alliance. I've been in the company enough to see both mergers. So Walgreens, if you don't know, are an iconic retailer, health and beauty retailer in the States who have just as much history as Boots, and we came together 10 years ago now. I don't know my company history. But we also work with Allianz Healthcare, who are a pharmaceutical wholesaler. So you can see already there's some diversity within our business. We're present in more than 25 countries, so diversity is becoming more important to us than ever as an organisation. We have over 400,000 employees, and we're the largest retail pharmacy, health and daily living destination in the US and Europe. 18,500 stores in 11 countries, one of the world's largest purchasers of prescription drugs and health and wellbeing products, and we have over 390 distribution centres in 20 countries.
Okay, so yeah, but I guess a little bit more specifically around Boots UK, which I guess many of you have been more familiar with. We kind of ignoring some of the actual figures, I guess some of the appropriate things to say is that we say that we are within 10 minutes 90% of the population are within 10 minutes of a Boots store, which basically means we are covering all sorts of demographics with that. Some people interacting with their community pharmacy, some people shopping in flagship stores. So realistically, we absolutely have to be aware of the diversity of our customer base. We do have the Boots Advantage card, which is obviously very helpful for understanding customer behaviour. We have to be extremely mindful of the fact that 90% of our Advantage card holders are female. So obviously we already have a bit of a bias in the database there. And then some lovely figures around how many products we offer on our website. So PR will be happy we've shoehorned that one in there. But the fact that actually 70% of the orders that are placed online, people do actually come into store to pick up. So again, we've got that real touch point, even with people who are kind of more online engaged. Okay. But yeah, so basically, you know, our customers have embraced multi-channel, so we have to, again, kind of appreciate the diversity of the customers in regards to the fact that some of them want to shop online, some of them want to come in store. I know my mum has her favourite story about the fact that she came into store to shop and was absolutely disgusted by the fact there was nobody on the till. And basically, she actually left her basket of shopping because she was told she had to use a self-service checkout. I do try and tell her that retail, unfortunately, is struggling a little bit at the moment, and Boots is probably, you know, kind of going there as well. But, you know, we have to remember that there are certain people in our communities that need certain ways of actually being interacted with, and we absolutely need to remember that.
So that's a bit about the organisation. In terms of why that's important to our team, we're from the Personalisation and Digital Insights team. And so our role is to do three things. Our leader calls it the 1, 2, 3 or the IPA. I like the IPA because it makes it sound like a beer. And our roles are to really understand our customers through insights, and that's through our Advantage Card data, whether that's through understanding the demographics of customers who purchase a specific product, or looking at customer segmentation so we can better understand how to serve our customers. Our second role is to use all of that knowledge to personalise our communication through any of our channels, so hopefully if at any point you hear from us, you feel like that message is relevant to you as an individual and not that we're broadcasting to you. And the third is to understand how those campaigns worked, whether that's how many people opened it, whether it created a return on investment. But this third one is really how the diversity is coming to play for us. What we're realising is the more diversity we have in our team, the more we can be like the voices of our different customers out there, and the stronger our recommendations can be.
So we've kind of done the whistle-stop tour, I guess, through the through the bits about who Boots are, who we are as a team. But the reason we're here today is actually to talk to you about Inspiration Insights, which is an initiative that Emma and another colleague, Natasha, set up. And I just kind of came along for the ride, if I'm honest. So I guess what we noticed is, so we realised that we are quite a diverse team. So we're quite lucky in the fact that, you know, when we look around, we think, actually, we've got lots of different backgrounds here. But we needed to think, actually, is this through luck or is it through design? Because if it's through luck, we absolutely aren't going to be able to future-proof this and make sure that we're protecting it for going forwards. So we kind of looked at the elements of why we need that diversity and tried to think about, okay, how do we maybe take this into the future and build on what we've already got?
But if we take that back a couple of years to when Inspiration and Insights started, we have to say it was by accident. When we realised that we are unusual, and hopefully what you'll see from that picture is that we have quite a strong gender mix in the team. So you heard earlier from Women in Data, it's around 26% of women in data. We have more like a 50-50 mix in our team. And some of that's happened organically. So Boots as a brand, women really love our ad card, and that naturally attracts women to Boots as an organisation. For me, the conversation started around Elizabeth Fagan, who was our director at the time, volunteered with the Retail Week Be Inspired programme, and that was specifically to get more women onto retail leadership boards across the country. And I was invited to a breakfast meeting to go and hear her speak in London. And for me, the realisation, not only that we were unusual, but we needed to promote more women through the organisation, was around that and seeing that email. But also then a frustration started bubbling up at why do I have to go and see one of my leaders talk in London at 8:30 in the morning when she's in this building most days? And that started the conversations around how do we do more of this within our own business.
Whereas for me, I feel like if we need to say we are not sponsored by Data IQ, but we maybe mentioned them a few times. So Tony, actually it was kind of, hey, she's over there. Tony from Data IQ kind of inspired me, I guess, because she hosted a panel conversation with some female data leaders. And I guess it wasn't until I was sat there listening to the conversation and realising, Oh, right. Okay. So women in data is actually quite unusual because, like I said, I mean, I guess we merrily sit in Nottingham in our team and, you know, we've got a lot of women on the team and it hadn't really struck me up until that point, which is maybe quite shameful. I don't know, very naive of me. But that was really eye-opening because, again, it's that whole thing of, well, you know, we're doing something right here. How do we make sure that we absolutely make sure that we keep doing that?
So Tony actually came and wrote an article on the gender diversity in Boots, and when she came in to talk to us about how we'd created it, we realised it wasn't quite just happy accident. We have a leader who really cares about diversity. So he challenges us as recruiting managers to say, look beyond the CV. It doesn't matter if somebody doesn't have the data skills. We can teach data skills. What does that person have that they can bring into the organisation that we don't already have? When I came into the team, it took a little while, but I realised I was there not for my data skills, but because I've been in the organisation for such a long time and I knew our pharmacy business inside and out, I could bring that expertise into our team and help to grow the voice of our customer in that area.
Yeah, and for me, I guess when I joined from the police and kind of, I came in as a data scientist, which to this point I still actually laugh about, but there you go. So I was employed as a data scientist and I started thinking, why have they employed me? Because blatantly I'm having to even learn the most basic SQL. And yeah, had a bit of a crisis of confidence, if I'm completely honest. But then realising actually one of the reasons I've been brought in was because I had kind of a share of the softer skills that maybe some of the more junior members of the team didn't have, and I had that experience of analytics elsewhere. So I guess kind of the kind of flip side almost of Emma having been in the business for so long, whereas I was coming in and giving that fresh pair of eyes, and that kind of really helped me understand where my place was and the fact that yes, I need to build my data skills, but actually a lot of the skills I already have were really important. So this is a slide that we pulled together a little while ago now. There are a couple of reasons for this. So it's basically showing a bit of our team background. And one of the reasons that we have this slide is because when Natasha and Emma started Inspiration and Insights, we wanted to do a survey of the team to understand, okay, we think we've got a bit of diversity here, but let's understand it a bit more. Let's maybe do a bit of analytics around it. And actually also, it's really helpful, myself and Dean, who's also out there, have gone and spoken to schools around kind of how to get into this type of career as well. And it's trying to show people that there isn't necessarily one route into analytics. So as you'll see here, we have people who, yes, we've got people who've been to university. Some people have got undergraduate degrees, some people have got master's degrees, some people have got PhDs. Equally, some people haven't been to university. Emma's already spoken as being an example of that. For those people who do have kind of academic qualifications, we do have quite a mix. I mean, there's a lot there where you would probably expect there to be statistics in amongst those degrees. I mean, for myself, I did ecological science. I did a thrilling dissertation on the phenotypic variation of Scots pine trees. And unfortunately, there was no statistical difference. So that was, you know, that went down well with the professors. So yeah, so there's potentially some up there where you think, yeah, absolutely traditional statistics. But then we've got things up there like art as well, and potentially a bit of like kind of linguistics alongside that. So then we thought, well, actually, we'll look at previous work experience as well, because that's really key. So yeah, again, quite random. Olympic coach, obviously that lends itself well. I found out I wasn't the only person that had actually worked for the police before, which was interesting. But what also we found was, yeah, absolutely, we have got people who've come through the business, really know the business side of things well. They show a really good aptitude for the data side, and they really lend that extra lens, I guess, in terms of what we're looking for that real business and customer understanding. So, for instance, some of the guys that have come through and done really well in the team have actually come out of our call centre. So they have absolutely had to deal with those customer frustrations. Hopefully some nice things they will have said as well. But, you know, bearing in mind we do a lot of the personalised communications to customers. They're the ones that had to answer the phone around kind of, why have I got this offer? I've never bought this product. And that's just kind of gives us a real good, I guess, again, for in terms of doing things like the peer reviews, somebody there who's really sense checking, why are we doing this? We're going to have customers calling the call centre. The call centre is not going to be too chuffed with that. So that gives us yet another lens, I guess.
But having said all of those things, our core skills are aligned. So yes, we have people in the team who are there because of their absolute math and statistics knowledge or their technical skill, but we have a commonality in that we all love problem solving. We're all naturally curious. We love telling our stories to the business. We want to be creative with data, and we have creative personalities in the team. So we have commonality, and that brings us together as a really strong team. But what makes us stronger is the diversity in our opinions, and that's what helps us really be the voice of the customer and represent our business effectively.
And I think where that's really key is especially where I can think of it like a kind of couple of joins into the team who have maybe had more of the technical skills. It's really helping them to realise that technical skills are really important, but you have to be able to translate that to the business. If the business doesn't understand what you're talking about, there is absolutely no point. If you're trying to like explain to the nth degree what an algorithm is doing, they're just going to switch off, a lot of them. So it really is kind of actually, they trust us, they know that we're the subject matter experts. What we are absolutely doing, as Tim says, we need to be the ones helping them make those decisions. So they just want to know, you know what, are you confident in what you found? And it's almost helping them kind of, I guess, move away from absolutely showing every little bit of evidence and instead telling a really important story around kind of where we need to get to, what we need to test, how do we actually kind of get from A to B. So that's really, really important.
So over the last couple of years, that journey has got us to understanding that we have some really new people in the team, and those new people need some support in self-development. And we've got a real mix of skills in the team. And that got us to this mission statement. So Inspiration in Insights is there to create a programme to inspire everyone in Insights in their career from every background, so it doesn't matter what your original skill set was. Championing our differences, how to work together, how to overcome challenge, and empowering the whole team to develop themselves. So hopefully you see a really strong diversity lens there. When we started looking at this, we looked at what that meant for training and what L&D could already do for us. And what we realised is we had really strong training programmes in how to do the data, how to communicate with people, how to write a really good deck. What we didn't have was the skills to help us understand our differences and how we really bring that hidden element of diversity to light. And that's where we've got to with the programme.
So what we thought we'd do is just actually talk a little bit around some of the content that we've already delivered to kind of take you a little bit on the journey. So the very first thing we did is, I guess, just to explain, we delivered a lot of these things as kind of a lunch and learn approach. So literally people are taking their lunch hours out to come to this. So we want people to invest. We are absolutely trying to, we like to think, help them kind of take charge of their own careers. The very first person that we actually had talk for us was Ruth Spencer, who is Head of Global Insights at Boots. So it's really great to get a strong kind of female data leader to come and talk at our first lunch and learn. And what Ruth is really good at talking about is how to negotiate a career in analytics, because I guess, as she would say, realistically it is quite a new career for the industry. So you almost have to find your own path. There are certain companies out there who are getting a lot better at professionalising analytics. But what we're really trying to drive home to the people that are kind of starting out on their career in analytics is realistically you do need to find your own way. And part of that is because it's such a diverse career choice. As Ruth would explain, I guess sometimes she'd find herself working more towards IT, sometimes it is more towards the business. And it's really understanding the fact that you as an individual, you need to choose which part of that career is for you, and making sure that you then make the right choices to take you closer to exactly where you want to be. And one thing that Ruth is also really good at talking about is the fact that at different times in your life, there will be different things that are obviously really important to you. So she will openly acknowledge that at one point she took a job that was very well paid because she wanted to buy a house in London. And obviously to buy a house in London, you have to earn a fair amount of money. So realistically, she was like, you know what, I'm going to appreciate the fact that probably day to day I'm not going to have the best time at work, but what I am doing is I'm achieving something outside of work at this point, and then once I've done that I can move on and do the next part of my career which will achieve the next thing that I want to do. And I think it's really important for people to hear that and realise that these choices absolutely are strategic, rather than they're strategic, but equally if someone said to you, what do you think you'll be doing in 5 years, it's okay if you don't actually 100% know at this point.
So that got the team thinking about their self-development, why they were there, and realising that the person next to them wasn't necessarily there for the same reason. Once we'd done that, we wanted to start helping the team understand themselves and the diversity amongst the team a bit better. So we've been working with Dr. Suzanne Ross from Nottingham Business School and 2 Thrive Consultancy. She's an expert in leadership careers, and particularly what makes leaders derail. And what she's spoken to us about is the fact that leaders that derail are quite frequently the leaders that don't understand themselves very well or their teams very well. So the first thing we covered is introverts and extroverts. So as you can imagine, as a team of analysts, we've got a whole heap of introverts in the team. We also have some extroverts.
Hence the orange dress.
And so the idea of the first session and the follow-up workshop that we did to it was understand where you are on the spectrum, but also understanding that we're not the stereotypical team of introverts that everybody in the business thinks we are. We have some extroverts in the team, and what can we learn from each other, and how can we better operate in meetings together, from something as simple as, I know I'm an extrovert, I'm going to take a breath and I'm going to let the introvert speak, to can I share the agenda with the introvert beforehand so they've got time to reflect and come to the meeting prepared with ideas because they don't like thinking on the fly, they want time to think that through.
But equally, I know when I've had development conversations with members of the team before who are kind of more introvert, one thing I've said to them is I've tried to push them a little bit out of their comfort zone, because much as I get the fact that sometimes they'll be sat in the meeting and they want to take that time to reflect and they'll then follow up with an email after the fact, they've missed that moment, that really important moment. So what I absolutely don't want them to try and do is suddenly become like the brash person in the room talking all the time like I do. But I want them to potentially at least just flag the fact that they're not 100% comfortable while we're in there, while all those people are there and can actually be engaged in that conversation. Because unfortunately the email to me after the meeting is too late and we've missed that moment. So that's really important as well. So the next thing that we spoke about was values. So this is something that actually I feel really strongly about. So Emma and I delivered this content ourselves. What we decided to do, we actually set it up by talking to the line managers first, which is something in business, I don't know whether you get it, but quite often they'll say, oh, if you want some further information on that, talk to your line manager. And somehow your line manager's like supposedly, I don't know, had something come in osmotically or something during that particular session. But we thought, you know what, we'll actually try and set this up a bit better. Talk to the line managers first, talk to them about the resources that we were going to make available to them. And then what we did was we did a lunch and learn with the team to really explain why understanding your own core values is really important. Now, for me, again, I guess the example I would use here is the fact that when I first came to work at Boots, I had a bit of a crisis of confidence and conscience probably as well. I think having gone from working in the public sector and feeling like I was somehow fighting the bad guy on a daily basis, I came to work at Boots and was, I guess, kind of, you know, delivering people marketing on a daily basis. And I was kind of like, why is that? Why am I struggling with that? And why am I having this kind of inner conflict, I guess? And actually, it was a session that Martin Squires delivered on managing insight teams, where you kind of go through and you understand some of what your own drivers are. That really helped me realise that my drivers were actually really different to a lot of other people in the room, but really interestingly, very close to our senior manager, who we're kind of saying has done all these amazing things in creating diverse teams. It's like, brilliant, I'm going to end up exactly like him, except he's also an introvert and I'm really not, so maybe not. But what it helped me realise is what I actually needed to do was rethink what I was doing. And absolutely now I'm really passionate about my job at Boots. I also found that I really enjoyed helping us prepare for GDPR, because I'm a bit weird like that. But it's one of those things where I think what we were trying to tell the team is very much, if you understand your values, you can be having those development conversations with your line manager to really help you align what you're doing in your day job with your values, to make sure that you're feeling really, really passionate about what you're doing. We absolutely acknowledge you can't do that with everything. So, you know, you have to also take time outside of work to fulfill your values. And obviously, if your core values are so far unaligned with the company that you're working for, you're really going to struggle. And if you've got to pay the bills, you've somehow got to find a way to keep turning up at work every day. But actually, knowing what your values are at least helps you understand why you're potentially struggling at times in your career and helping you kind of maybe rethink things a little bit.
I guess alongside that, for me, where that understanding the values of my team have really supported me as a line manager, is I know I have people in my team whose value is recognition, and I know for those people I've got to stop, take that breath and spend the time to say thank you and to do that moment of recognition. And that means by understanding their values and the diversity of my team, I now have a much more energised team because I know how to pick apart their development and what they need from me. Our next session, Suzanne came back. So by going through the introvert, extrovert and value sessions, we realised that actually those things can bring up negative emotions. In thinking about whether I'm an introvert or an extrovert, saying to the extroverts in the team, can you be a bit quiet please, isn't necessarily motivating. In looking at your core values, you might find a value that really is at odds with the organisation, and that can be demotivating. Or you can realise that your values are actually the trigger of that negative voice that you get that sometimes tells you, I can't do it. So we asked Suzanne to come back and help us with that and look at reframing. And when you get that negative voice, when you get that moment bubbling up, when you're at odds with a stakeholder's value, how do you stop, take that moment, think about the chimp paradox and realise that actually it's just my child getting out of control. I need to stop, say thank you, be an adult about it and reframe that moment. And so we've only done that session last week, but already the teams are talking to us about it in that they want to know more, they want to understand how other people are going about it and how we can learn from each other and really energise each other and support each other through those reframing moments. Because if you're struggling with that negative emotion, that's the time when you need someone to pick you up, recognise your values and say thank you if that's important to you.
Yeah, so like I say, absolutely, that's kind of, I guess with that session, seems to have really resonated with the team, and we definitely got challenges when we spoke about things like introvert, extrovert and also values. There were people going, but what do we do? How do, what can we actually do about these things? And the idea was, actually we will talk to you about that. The reframing session was absolutely key. I think Suzanne struggled to fit the content into the hour. There was probably loads more that she could have actually spoken about, so we may well actually explore a little bit more around some workshops around that, because the team seemed to have really enjoyed it. So the next thing that we're looking at, which came up while we were talking about values, and we've been working with our learning and development department around what we have available for people to be able to explore things. So for values, we had all sorts of different resources. So we had some values cards. We also just had, to be fair, you can literally just do it on a piece of paper and just think of what are my values. But what I really liked was kind of being able to talk through it with somebody else. Once you've kind of decided what your values are, really have those coaching conversations around, well, why is that important to you? Even somebody else who's got the same value, actually it transpires that the reason it's important to them is something completely different. So we are all very different. Now, the strengths that we're going to be going on to look at, we kind of discovered in a similar way, I guess. We also got hold of some strengths cards, and I've been working through those. At the moment, we are a bit of an odd company because we're American. We've just come to the end of our financial year at the end of August. So at the moment, we're all kind of setting our personal development plans for the year ahead. And what's nice about the strengths cards is that basically they help you understand what your energising strengths are. So basically things that you're really good at and you absolutely love and you absolutely get loads out of, versus, I guess, the things that you're really good at but you find really boring, but everyone asks you to do it because they know you're really good at it, and you actually get stuck doing it because everyone knows that you're good at it. So it's kind of almost like, okay, how do you do less of those things? How do you do more of the stuff that really energises you? And then also it looks at, okay, these are the things that would really energise me if I could just get a bit better at it. So I guess we would look to put those on people's development plans for the year ahead, kind of going, actually, how do we get people there? How do we make sure that they are constantly, I guess, improving and feeling like when they set their personal development plan for the year ahead, they actually feel really motivated by it, because nobody particularly enjoys putting together, I don't think. But actually what I like doing is, once I have put it together and spent all that time on it, I like to look at it and think, do I actually feel excited about the year ahead? And it's the conversation we like to have with the team as well. It's like, does that actually make you feel excited? And if they're kind of going, no, it's really dull, then something's gone horribly wrong. Because that should be about what they want to do and what absolutely they want to do to fulfil kind of the next stage of their careers and really feel like they're building into being a better analyst.
So we've definitely seen real benefits by looking at the hidden diversity of our team and understanding ourselves better. But ultimately, we've not done that because we're doing it for altruistic reasons. We're doing it because we want a more motivated team. We want to deliver better campaigns. We want to be a better voice of the customer. And actually, what we've realised is that in doing this, we've started to raise the profile of the team. Ultimately, through that, we want to increase recruitment into the team, help people understand that we're a team that they want to come and work in because they see that we care about these things, and hopefully that'll help us improve the diversity of the team even further. So we've already mentioned that Tony last year wrote the article on how we've built a gender mix into our personalisation team. At the time, probably pretty much by accident, but not so much anymore.
Yeah, so, and obviously it went on Twitter again recently, so thanks for that. And also, Data IQ, yet again. So I guess the photo we had before was us at the awards where our senior manager actually won an award for being an insights leader, which is really good. We're really proud of him for that. This year we were shortlisted for the Best Diversity in Data programme, so I guess next year we'll have to try and actually win it. And then also, I guess, we are trying to expand our network anyway, because for us, it's a case of we really want to understand what other people are doing around gender diversity and other diversity within their teams. So Women in Data will be going to the conference at the end of November. We went last year as well. Really great conference in terms of meeting just loads of really interesting women who work in data, and also hearing some really phenomenal people speaking, and really good for networking. So,
and looking within our own organisation too. So when we started the journey, there was something called Women in Data, and what they told us is actually by promoting women in, they were branded as the feminists in the corner, and actually by talking about diverse IT, which is what they've rebranded in, people are a lot more engaged in it, and it gives them the option to talk about other topics. What's interesting about that is we've been on our journeys completely separately, and where we've come to is realising that actually increasing diversity is about training, it's about helping your teams understand themselves better. So we're looking at working cross-functionally now, where can we share budgets, where can we explore those topics together, because actually this isn't a topic that's pertinent to just analytics, it's pertinent to your business as a whole.
And also we've been doing a bit of work, so myself and Dean spoke at the IDM Creative Data Academy earlier this year, and we set them a bit of a challenge in terms of looking at doing a bit of problem solving with our customer data. And what's really great about that is that's people who are either just leaving university or potentially they're still at university, and they're really trying to understand, I guess, what their place might be as they start off in their careers. So again, you know, we do that partly because we want to recruit people into the team. We're not just doing it for kind of the good of our health, as it were. But what's lovely is one of the quotes that came out of this year's intake was that there's a place in data for everyone. And that's absolutely where we want people to feel that there is a place in data for everyone. So I'm not going to say that they took that just from Boots talking to them. But you know what, if we helped, I think that's really great. Dean and I also have been to talk at various schools. So I'd like to do a bit more of that as well. We've heard anecdotally that actually if you wait until women have kind of got to university or beyond to talk to them about getting into a data analytics profession, you've probably left it too late. So realistically, kind of going to talk at schools, explaining what careers are out there is really important. The upsetting thing with this week's one, if I'm honest, is that we got there were only 3 people, and apparently that was because, as the careers person said to me, it's because we don't have that many people taking business. I was like, you fundamentally don't understand what we do. So I've realised actually it's not just about educating the school children in terms of our profession, it's also in terms of kind of bringing the careers people along the line as well, and making them realise that, well, no, none of us studied business either, and somehow we've got into this. You know, just because we work in a business doesn't mean we had to have studied business. But on a similar note, one thing to mention is another thing that I guess Tony flagged to us was around how to look at your recruitment adverts and try and decide if you're actually potentially already weeding out certain genders through the words that you're using in your adverts. And one of the things we found was that the word analyst is actually a male term. So I'm just going to leave that there. But realistically, if the word analyst is a male term, there's something fundamentally we need to do to change that, because we are analysts and I'm not a man. So yeah, if that's what's putting people off applying, then we absolutely need to do something to change that as an industry. But thank you.